Hey everybody, we're back with another demo. This one was a character concept demo. So here we have an example of a handout or description. This isn't the one I gave my students because I didn't want them to lead them in a certain way by showing my own example, but instead I just did in a similar fashion, wrote up a different description for a character, and following those cues I came up with a concept and showed them the process towards making that. So it's an example assignment for a character study and develop preliminary character designs based on the following description. Samurai S.W.A.T, an elite tactical squad in the Tokyo Police Department. The year is 2291 AD. Megacities now govern the world with Tokyo as one of the pillars of Asia. The Samurai S.W.A.T exists to enforce the law through both preemptive and preventative means. The Samurai S.W.A.T infuse sleek and powerful technology as found in their body armor and firearms, with traditional accents that echo their feudal past. Their overall design should be both intimidating and impressive. The government sees the Samurai S.W.A.T as the guardians of peace, but in civilian eyes they are bullies on payroll. Now, what's the point of this kind of description? Am I trying to showcase my creative writing abilities? Obviously not, because I'm not a writer. But this gives kind of more of a vibe and personality as opposed to just doing simple notes of information and description. What I didn't add is the other thing I was thinking when I was approaching this was it would probably be for like a third-person action game and on like a 360 or PS3 or PC, as opposed to like an iPhone game or something like that. So that's why these characters, the concepts that you'll see are fairly detailed. Finally, I gave some references. Now the thing about references, you have to be careful. Like I'll name certain movies or games to get some idea of inspiration and some direction, but not necessarily zeroing in and focusing on any one of them, because you don't want that to feed your ideas so much that you start to be limited and unintentionally start getting too close to those examples, because you certainly don't want to copy or mimic. First of all, it's not very original because it's already been done before, but also, obviously copyright issues and all that. So when I throw out these examples, again, it's just more to have a starting point and some idea, but certainly not married to those examples, and should steer away and create your own original concept. With design, with games like Crisis and movies like Last Samurai, Japanese anime movie called Casshern, and a Japanese anime called Jinro. Now I use those examples to capture some of the an idea of some of their characters. Crisis had the very almost striated, almost muscle type cybernetic bodysuit. Last Samurai certainly because of the samurai armor. And I specifically chose that one as opposed to other films like Kurosawa films or whatever, because even though Last Samurai is a period piece, they took some liberties with the designs, and if I remember correctly, the designer behind those costumes and armor was the same person or people who did the designs for Lord of the Rings. You could get the point across in terms of being feudal Japan, but certainly it had a certain kind of modern flair to it and design sensibility that I liked. Because in terms of style or art direction, I wrote down World of Warcraft and Killzone. Whereas the previous examples was talking about design details, when now I'm using WoW and Killzone in terms of style and art direction for the style, again in terms of proportion, stylization from WoW, and maybe some more of the grit and high detail, and a different approach to exaggeration in the Killzone characters. The funny thing about Killzone is when I first saw it, it reminded me of the characters in Jinro, and certainly with the helmet and the goggles, and you can see that in some of the images that I pulled up here. Okay, so let's move on to the actual demo. Okay, so this demo took about almost 3 hours, maybe 2 hours 45 minutes, and I've sped it up here, so it's sped up to about half an hour. But within that time, I would say the first 45 minutes were concentrated on our first round of thumbnails, and I did 8 of them. And as you can see, a little bit similar to the last demo, I started off with silhouettes. But in this case, even similar, because it's very static and it's a front view, and I'm mirroring the image to speed up time. The reason I did it this approach as opposed to a more three-quarter perspective sketch stage that I did with the Warrior demo is because in this case I'm focusing on, because of its armor and stuff, I'm trying to do a quick and efficient pass that gets the point across with the silhouettes, but in a way that's saving time. By doing this front profile shot, like I said, I can just concentrate on doing one half and just mirror it to capture the general vibe of the design. Certainly not a study in body language or pose. That kind of thing can come later. Again, this is just a fast pass, and the emphasis is on the silhouette of the actual armor. And so here you see me doing, cutting and pasting, and skewing and warping, and doing a combination of copying and pasting, reacting to the shapes that I see, erasing and adding brush strokes where I see fit. And now we have 2 thumbnails there. So here, this is very random. I'm again not really thinking about it, I'm just reacting. The only intention I had doing that was I knew it was going to be an arm, but that's it. Everything else is just kind of random, and just shapes coming as they are. It's not moments of just thinking there very methodically, oh, I want this curve to go this way and this hook to go in that way. No, again, it's just very on the fly, and I'm reacting to the shapes I'm seeing. Okay, so you'll see it's a process that's layered. It's built up. I'll throw in these shapes together, and then when I mirror it, I realize, oh, maybe the legs are too long or too skinny, and so I'll adjust it. Right? I'll just use the scale and warp tool, and just be very quick and iterative on these thumbnails. So here we have a third one, a fourth one here. Again, just kind of reacting in random shapes that I'm doing here. And like I mentioned in the other demo, it's a very organic process, and it's very alive and just fluid. You're not spending too much time overthinking anything. That comes a little later as you refine the designs and pick elements that you like. Then that becomes a little more methodical and intentional. But right now, this is the part that's, in a lot of ways, it's a lot of fun, just because you really are just experimenting. Okay, so here you see me just kind of adjusting the helmet and the head size. And again, see, I'm skewing, adjusting the proportions, and I'll fix it again. And some of these, may fit certain aspects of the description, some of them don't. But again, it's very early, and as long as I know, as I get more refined, to adhere to the description and be closer to our aim for a proper character design that reflects the goal of this futuristic, samurai-influenced S.W.A.T team member. So in some cases, I'm taking existing parts from the other thumbnails and Frankensteining to make and piecing together a new one, and then adding and erasing. One thing, there's certain things that I'm keeping in mind here, like what are distinctive elements from a samurai. Well, a big one is the horns on the helmet. The other thing would be that kind of skirt, I'm not sure what you call it, on the front, as well as the way the chest armor is rounded out, how that falls, as well as the shoulder armor. Those are kind of things that I am kind of being conscious of, but other than that, I really am just exploring, experimenting, and moving very fast. Like I said before, this was this thumbnail stage, this initial pass was about 45 minutes, and I did 8 of them. And so you could, so that breaks down to about 5 minutes per, but not always. Some took longer than others, and again, you'll see, especially towards the end here, I reuse existing thumbnails that I did earlier, and then just kind of add and revise to that. Yeah, so you see right there, I just took that chest from that particular one, and then here I'm stealing the arm from the 5th thumbnail, and the skirt, and again, you're just trying to move quickly and being efficient and maximize your time, and kind of working with what's there and then adding and subtracting to change it up. Okay, here we go, fixing the head. Stole that helmet from the 3rd thumbnail, but then I erased it and rotated it and changed it. Right, mirroring it there. Okay, if the legs weren't beefy enough, so I'm fixing it, adjusting, then I try mirroring it again to see if it works. There we go. And then I do one more. A new arm from scratch. Again, just adding and painting and doing shapes, doing lines. That was very random, haphazard there. Right. So essentially the gaps and cuts in the shape are what's causing the design, especially when I mirror them. Right? I'm not being very methodical and being intentional about, oh, I want this design to round out this way and go in this direction. No, it's just purely reactionary. Okay. And after I've mirrored it, I've noticed the legs are a bit off. So I adjust the head a bit. I wanted the horns to flay out a little more like a samurai helmet. And there we go, there's the 8th one. So that was about 45 minutes. Finally, I just kind of spaced them out a bit and I put them on a template, and of course I label them so the fictional art director can easily say, oh, I like B, or I like D, or what have you. And I put the name of the character, which in this case maybe is the name of the game as well. In the middle, bottom middle, you see the stage, which is of this design, which is just the thumbnail stage, and the date in the lower right corner. Okay, so here's the fictional art director circling in red what he likes. He likes the helmet piece on D and the arm as well. He likes the leg and skirt on H. He likes the shoulder and torso of F. And now I'm literally cutting and pasting those parts that he liked and putting this kind of Frankenstein version of the next round of thumbnails. But even though I did that, I'm still changing things. I'm still adding, subtracting, adjusting, proportion, scale, right? Filling in detail, removing detail. Yeah. So every time I cut a lasso, a shape there, and move it, it's those gaps and those separations, or that negative space, is creating a new kind of design element. Right, here we go. Fixing the torso a bit, trying and testing it out again. Adjusting the head. One thing that can be said about these early passes is that they're probably too bulky and they almost feel like robots or like knights, but that's something I will change later. Again, my focus right now is just kind of this quick but yet detailed exploration of the design of the armor, the bodysuit. And I'm adjusting the arm, even adjusting the pose a bit, even though it's a front static shot. I'm still trying to adjust where necessary to improve the overall feel. Okay. So from this Frankenstein thumbnail that took different parts of the other thumbnails, and on top of that revising and adding it, I'll use this as a template for another refined pass of the thumbnails that show, that narrows down the focus, right? It's not all over the place. See, I'm reusing it, but at the same time I'm going to show some variety and be more of a detailed pass. So instead of most of that time I was going with painted shapes and silhouettes. Now we're actually doing a line sketch approach, and like the other demo, I'm reacting to the silhouette that I see behind it, and with that guiding my lines for this design pass. In some cases you see me following what I see in the silhouette thumbnail behind it. In other cases I'm just kind of doing my own thing and deviating from that. So that's the first design. Okay. So again, even though this is the same template, all three of them, I'm still showing some variety on this line drawing pass, but still within the confines of the general silhouette that we narrowed it down to, and so you're refining your design. But even with this pencil sketch, I'm still doing the whole mirror method, just doing one side and mirroring it because it's speeding up the process and still getting the point across of the design. Another variation on the chest armor there, and the shoulder. Another aspect of samurais is often you see that certain kind of cuff or overhang that goes over the hand. So you see me doing that in all three of those characters there. Again, the horns on the helmet that are very distinctly samurai-like. And a quick detail just to indicate some of the face. There we go. Okay, so there you see me, I just had the line drawing, and now the other option is punching up back the silhouette and inverting the line sketch I just did into white, I got another 3 designs. And because the lines were inverted white, you couldn't see the face. So the face, I circled the line sketch of the face and inverted it back to black. So now we can see the face detail. So this is a fairly refined point, but now I'm going to take this even further. So again, the art director is saying, okay, I like what you've done so far. We're getting closer. Let's do one more take, but I like the torso and pelvis of the first one, the head and the shoulders and the arm of the second one, and the torso or the chest and the leg on the third one. So now we're doing that whole Frankenstein approach again, but in this case with a Frankensteining this refined pass. Okay, so you see how that works now, right? That's very quick, right? Because all the effort was done in the previous iteration, and so it made it fairly easy to see how they look when you take bits and pieces of each and put it together. So here, like I mentioned earlier, now I'm being very conscious of the fact that it looked too bulky. So here you see me streamlining it a bit. Especially the arms. Streamlined the torso and the waist a bit. And then what you'll see me do again is cut off the other half and then mirror the revised version. Right? So there we go. It's getting a little more streamlined. Still, still fairly involved with the armor, but certainly a better proportion. Okay, so now I'm doing another shortcut. I'm using this as a base, kind of warping it, getting the perspective, and you wouldn't just leave it like that. This is just to give me some idea of what the armor will look like in perspective, but what I'll do next is actually draw the body. And like I had mentioned in the other demos, I always draw the form of the body underneath and then place whatever accoutrements and clothing and armor over it. Again, so you have an idea of how it falls on the body, because it's reacting to gravity and all that, and it lends itself a little more credibility and shape to the clothing and armor because it's falling on the body that's underneath it. A rough sketch of the volumes, angles, and I'm not too concerned in being completely accurate. If I were to clean this up, I would probably, improve the anatomy a little more, but it got the job done. It got the point across, and it gave a little more personality as opposed to those earlier just front shot static shots, right? So now I'm putting a little more personality and slightly 3/4, and then I'm going to go back and use that latest version of the armor of the bodysuit and put it on top of this form here. Yeah, I'm still adjusting. Sometimes you erase, sometimes you redraw, sometimes you just actually tweak and distort and rotate what's already been drawn. Putting a little more effort on the face because that's what's going to be seen most of the time, even though because the rest of the body you'll see is going to be covered by that armor I did earlier. Right. So, it looks slightly off, but it gets the job done, and certainly once I put the armor on, it gets the point across. There we go, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit. The other reason I do that is because you never know later on, maybe you do another customization pass, and maybe he has an undergarment or underneath it, and it has no sleeves or something. That way I still have the line drawing of the anatomy in the arm that will still come through. So you see what I did there, right? I took that distorted and warped version of the arm we did earlier, and now I'm literally kind of putting it over this drawing of the body like a paper doll. Again, warping and rotating and distorting a little bit to be a little more accurate with the perspective. With all this warping and stuff like that, it's just again a shortcut to speed things up, but I would never just leave it like that for a final. If, say, one of the designs were taken and accepted to be the direction we want, you would, as a final pass or a cleanup, we would paint over it and make sure it's clean, and especially if it's going to be used to promote it a little bit. And so anything that got warped a little, the resolution was off, you would rectify that by cleaning it up and painting it. But for this, pass of the design, it works very well. And you saw me earlier that even though I warped that boot and even that one, I still had to touch it up and fix it, because you could tell it looked a little strange, and with all that warping it looked warped. Okay, so, but I'm following the form of the body that I had drawn earlier to help guide the placement of the armor. And so even with that refined thumbnail that we saw earlier, I'm still, doing another pass here and refining it again and fixing and revising. And this one is the closest to that version of it. But even with the horns, I changed it and placed it more on the top center, more like a samurai helmet. And now I'm actually adding more to the helmet to look more traditionally like a samurai. So this pass that you're seeing here is closest to the thumbnail that you see to the left. And I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times, and the second and third time I'm going to revise and deviate a little bit from that, but still following and being fairly loyal to that previous thumbnail revision that we got to. See, in this one I'm removing the helmet, giving it a different, slightly different approach, erasing and masking actually some of these things. I'm not going to leave it like that, it would look kind of disturbing. Again, I'm just doing another revision there and adding a different detail for the chest armor, different design, but still for the most part following that previous revised thumbnail. This portion of the leg is I would probably thinking a little bit back to Crisis and how you see that more kind of striated, fibrous body armor. Slightly different take on the boots there. And here we do a third one, and again I'll be revising it a bit to another variation. Here I'm masking, and what you'll see me do is start to reveal or bring back the stuff that I masked. You see that, right? Instead of just going back in with black paint. That's why you see the color design. Some of that's coming back through when I revealed the mask again. There as well. Getting some of that detail that was originally there. But for the rest of it, I think I actually just, I start painting in again, going back to the black brush again. Different design for the chest armor. Saw me there follow the contours of the ab and the undercage there for that new armor design by the abs. That shoulder armor is a little more reminiscent of what you would see on a samurai. Even that collar as well for the undergarment that they wear underneath or the armor. Again, a different take on a more striated armor there for the legs. echoing those kind of stripes that are on the shoulder. Now I put it on the sides of the thighs there. And with this guy, and that same element is echoed in the neck, and with him I put a visor, which kind of was a little more, screams a little bit more that it's SWAT compared to the samurai-like helmet. And again, labeling it, putting on a template. I forgot to mention the previous round of revisions of the three took maybe half an hour, and this third round here that's even more refined took about maybe 45 minutes. Can't remember exactly. And finally, just to kind of really sell it, I kind of do a quick pass on some weapons. Here I'm doing guns because it's SWAT, and eventually I get to the swords or the katanas. This one was based on an M16, so I pulled up a reference image of an M16 and did a quick silhouette. But once I did that, I put away that reference, and from here I start to deviate and add to it and do different designs on these three machine guns. Now, again, it's a profile shot, and it's because it's easier and it's a quick pass to get the general silhouette. Same approach like I did with the characters. I'm doing random shades, cutting and pasting, repeating, getting some design elements there. You know, taking certain things that are distinct from the M16, you'll see the butt of the gun, the handle, certainly the cartridge. As long as I keep those, I can deviate the other stuff, and you'll still recognize that. Your mind will fill in the gaps and recognize that as a machine gun, or one based on the M16 specifically. So here we're doing another variation. And just hinting at details, you know, little, you know, revelations of some white and lines and circles. It's not really that detailed. It's just enough to imply something that your mind is filling in the gaps. There's to steady the gun. Another take on the barrel. This is, you know, this is also pretty fun to do. And finally, another version. Now, this isn't a specific weapon concept pass. Remember, the whole emphasis was on the character. I'm just doing a few takes on the weapon just to add a little variety and also, you know, support the character design. Okay, just adding a few more touches. And then here you see me placing them in, and again rotating and warping. And I can get away with it because it's mostly black and silhouette, so I don't really have to worry about it being out of perspective. If it was very detailed, you would see that it looked off, but because it's mostly silhouette, I can get away with making it match with the character. There I'm doing some white blooms just because you couldn't see it because it's all this concept's all black and white. So I'm just adding a little bit of those white blooms and erasing some of it so you see hints of the gun and still part of the armor. And there's that final gun I put in. Okay, there you have it. And so last but not least, I saved to the end, I finally do the katanas, and more specifically the handles. That is so distinctly samurai, it's very clear, so all those things help kind of sell that angle of our whole objective of making these futuristic SWAT members that are specifically Japanese and influenced by samurai. So in addition to the things I mentioned earlier, like the helmets, certain aspects of the armor, those visual cues of samurai designs, and certainly now the katana handles really help solidify that influence of samurais. And I didn't even bother to draw the whole sword because I knew it was just going to be placed on the hip. I mean, you could argue, oh, it's not accurate, you gotta show some of the scabbard going behind the body. Remember, the whole point was still to design pass on specifically the design of the uniform. And these last little things are just extra touches to help get the vibe and sell that fact. Yeah. Different positioning. So although samurai do not put their swords in the back like this, remember they're not samurai. These guys are just influenced by it. So I took some liberties, and in this case on the second character, put the swords on the back. And finally on this last guy, I used the same katana handle, but instead of a sword or a katana, I ended up making an actual dagger. And I kind of feel for the most part the third character is probably the closest to what we want, and that kind of makes sense because it's the last one I did and it evolved from all the work before that. Although I do like the chest on the second one of the helmet for the first, so maybe you can customize and with the helmet and without. Final touches, and then again, of course, putting on a template and labeling it. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. It was certainly fun for me, and I hope this continues to give you guys insight in the process on developing your own characters, how to make them quickly, efficiently, with a lot of viable options, and that lead to a solid and satisfying concept. Alright, thanks, take care. Peace.